Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the people's channel, home of the BitSquad, the largest and greatest crypto community in all of the interwebs. No channel is working harder to keep you in the know when it comes to crypto. This is Around the Blockchain. We come to you Monday through Friday, 5:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is DZ. You can also catch me at NFT Alpha Show. Make sure you're also sub to that channel. But we're going to be talking to the best guests in the world. This is our best panel we've ever had. And also talking about your favorite subject, which is cryptocurrency. And we're going to start on the top right. You can check them at verifiedinvesting.com. Always putting out the alpha, always putting out the good calls. I follow your Twitter. You're putting out some really, really good calls lately. Then on the bottom right, we have Crypt Keeper. The only tales up from the crypt he's giving you are those low cap gems and, how to invest soundly. Then on the bottom left, we have Tom from Crypto Busy, but he's the bomb when it comes to crypto. But talking about bombs, we got the original BitBoy bomber. It has been Armstrong, and he's ready to continue that undefeated streak, maybe on the show and maybe on the baseball of Diamond too. So we're going to be a really, really good episode. We're talking about the huge breakout. There's a reason I have the green on the hat. I'm matching the background here. Bitcoin is breaking out. We're seeing some really good pumps. Also, ECASH Act, this Treasury Department trying to get involved with some digital currencies that aren't on the ledger. What's going on with that? And Goldman Sachs talking about XRP Army. Where are you at? Let us know. I was learning about XRP NFTs just earlier. So I'm going to be diving into that chain even more than maybe I want to, but I know the XRP Army is going to be appreciative. But before we get into those topics, you know what time it is? It is time for us to check out these markets, and they are looking good. This is looking good. It's almost looking too good, suspiciously good. Look at some of these pumps. I mean, we're seeing on the bottom end 10%, 8%, 8%. But, we're talking about Bitcoin and, might just lead us right into our first segment. Now, Gareth, we're seeing some really good pumps. We've talked about that channel you have. Have we broken out of that channel? Are we above it? Are we touching the top? What is going on with the Bitcoin price?
Yeah, so impressive move. I think it's the 7th straight up day in Bitcoin. So that's always a positive to see that momentum carry through right at the top of that area right here. So don't listen. It doesn't mean it can't break out, but I want to show you guys one more thing that has me a little concerned. I'm going to flip on my 200 moving average and look at that. So listen, basically it comes down to this. If Bitcoin can get over this level and hold for a day or two, now you're talking legitimate breakout, legitimate upside major move. Right now, you're technically into 2 major resistance points, and you just have to think 7 up days. Is it due for at least a little bit of a pullback? I'm in the camp that it is just a little bit. Maybe it turns into something bigger, but in the very least, just a minor pullback here off of the 200. Let it consolidate, let it build some strength, and then maybe we can see that move up, get through that level.
Okay, now, are we kind of expecting a sharp, correction, or, something in the charts maybe saying this might be a light pullback, and can we test it again maybe a couple times here?
I honestly wish I knew. I don't know. The chart will ultimately show us. And then if you get a shallow pullback, that's the most bullish, right? So basically what you want to see is some sellers come out here at the 200. They kind of push it down a little bit, but there's enough buyers on the underbelly that kind of keep it propped up. So it kind of forms this bull flag formation. Then that's the one that can lead to the next big break above the 200 moving average. If you see a very sharp pullback, that's never good. It means there's a lot of heavy, big money sellers, and there's not enough buyers to kind of compensate.
All right, now, Ben, what do you think is the latest reason for this pump? Are we kind of just testing the top of the channel? The TA kind of called it. We were going to go this high regardless, maybe test that 200. Or is there some maybe macro events that, or maybe do Quan? Why do you think we have this latest pump?
Well, I think what you're looking at here is we're just seeing kind of the pressure relief. We're getting a little relief from a lot of pressure that's been built up with crypto since this Russia-Ukraine situation started. I believe the price when it started was around $37,000 to $38,000, if I remember correctly. And now we're looking at where it is now. We told you guys at the time that usually these invasions, it's always a complicated, touchy subject, but invasions, bullish for markets, bad for humanity, right? And of course, you start doing some math there and you start figuring out, why wars, other than the fact they're war, get a bad rap, right? Because a lot of them are, if not all of them, are motivated from a money perspective. You look at the oil, you look at, if you look at Taiwan, for instance, like, why does the United States care about Taiwan so much? Well, it's because I think all of our silicone comes from there. There's something that is needed for like tech parts that comes from Taiwan, and we've got to have them on our side, or else that can dramatically affect maybe the entire tech landscape. So you start looking at countries have invested interest in stuff, and you also look at, I also don't think Russia is necessarily like, they're not doing this necessarily for, a micro market event, but it does have a positive effect. And so what we're looking at here is that the price has been ticking up slowly. And now we got a big move last night past a resistance level. And now we're above 48. We're clearing resistance after resistance. I think 50, we're going to get a pullback. I think, along with Gareth, I think we will get a pullback. I don't think this is moon. It could moon this month. If we do get the ETF, the spot ETF approval for Bitcoin, like Raoul Pal seems to believe we will, if that were to occur, that could be a catalyst for us to really, really move. But I'm more looking, if we do get the scenario where Bitcoin is hitting all-time highs again, I mean, I'm definitely a believer that probably it's going to be much later in the year. But it can move quick. So if we get that ETF approval and then the Ethereum merge happens over the summer, we could be looking at all-time highs, even before the fall.
All right. Now, Tom, what do you think is going to be better for the midterm when it comes to Bitcoin? Do you think it's going to be better for us to, maybe blast past this 200 resistance, past this top of the channel? Or should we trade sideways, maybe even another pullback down, even though some would say that would make us more bearish? What do you think is better for the midterm here?
For sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having us back on the show. I think for the immediate short term, we've already had about 100 odd days of selling pressure from about November 2021 all the way up until about the invasion, and there's a lot of selling pressure that you've had on Bitcoin on the crypto markets. So I think personally for myself, I'd love to see Bitcoin's price blast through the 200 EMA, but I think in the immediate short term, what is healthy for the market will be, again, as Gareth has mentioned, and also what Ben has mentioned as well, it's just a bit of a slight pullback, bit of selling pressure, but also supported by some of the buying pressure at around sort of 46, 47,000 going into April. The fact that we're getting into the end of March, the options start to expire, the pressure's lifted off to the market towards the end of the month. Going into April, this is looking good. If you compare April of last year, April was a massive month. You saw Coinbase have their IPO, but then once they went IPO, there was a bit of selling pressure on Bitcoin's price. But we're not having sort of an event like that's happened in April as far as aware so far. But if we do see something fundamental play in the markets, then that's going to push Bitcoin's price even higher. Something good, of course, such as Elon Musk creating a new social media platform that involves crypto somehow. That would also be good for crypto going forward. So something like that. But the selling pressure has been too far gone, in my opinion.
Okay, well, we're kind of laying out some bullish scenarios here. Now, Crypto Keeper, we know what could bring it up, right? We pull up to this top of the channel, maybe we have a Do Kwon buying, maybe it's the invasion, maybe, some macro narratives here. But what are some obstacles you see that, might push us in the opposite direction that we might need to be worried about?
I think just the uncertainty overall of what's happening macroeconomically. I've said it before that I believe that we are going to get at some point this year a huge, what I'm going to look at as an opportunity. We were talking about it before the show to ultimately get some really low prices. And I think that it's just, it's kind of been the perfect storm as it relates to what's going on in our economy with a war, with the, the fog around the world, if you will, combined with our inflation out of control. All of these things have been kind of the perfect storm. And the question becomes, how long can we kind of keep things totally intact? We've been in a really bad way, headed down, I feel like, as it relates to our economy, as it relates to our government, as it relates to our fiscal monetary policy. All of that has just been absolutely crashing, but yet Bitcoin and some other cryptocurrencies have really been able to hold strong, which I think is super encouraging. I think that it says that we do have fundamental strength there. But I will say this, with the Bitcoin conference coming up, as crazy as it might sound, there is tens of thousands of people getting together to talk about that. A lot of them are influential in these markets to talk about Bitcoin. So the idea that could pump the markets, I feel like more than anything, it's like, hey, it creates more and more hype. people are putting out content, right? And then I believe that one of the negative things that could happen is some of these institutions use the pump coming off of the Bitcoin conference as a sort of exit liquidity, if you will, especially if we get some bad news on the heel of the conference. We're running into May. There's the common saying in the stock market, sell in May and go away. So I think that it's going to take a little bit more than just a single or I think it's going to take a big event to really crush Bitcoin and head it, in the other direction.
All right, and I believe.
Can I jump back in?
Yeah.
Can I jump back in here real quick? Just want to follow up on what Crypto Keeper is saying, is that the exact scenario that he lays out, and this is why we try to tell people, like, we don't know where this is going. We have not switched from, this is realistic to this is probable yet. And the reason is the exact scenario he laid out is exactly what we saw in the summer of 2019. The price of Bitcoin went from $7,000 all the way up to $14,000. Exactly when? During Bitcoin 2019 conference in San Francisco. So this is not a far-fetched scenario. That's why we tell people we think it's bullish right now. We're leaning more towards, we might be seeing all-time highs again, but you guys definitely don't need to go all in on that idea, because we have seen the exact scenario that Crypto Keeper laid out.
Yeah, and if I could just jump in on that too. Funny you mentioned that, because I was in Dubai at the Future Blockchain Summit in October, which is just when Bitcoin was at 65,000 again, just this past year. So it's weird how these things coordinate, but it almost makes sense because you're getting so much kind of coordinated hype around these events that it does create that buying pressure to push us up.
All right. And I will say this, I believe Crypto Face was really pushing the sell in May, walk away. I think he's kind of changed his tune a little bit for this year. I think he said hold in May for another day. So I don't know. I have to double check on the exact wording on that.
He texted me that. He texted me that during the show on Friday. I'll give you the exact thing that he said, which was,
I've got a meeting with him in about 40 minutes, so I'll let you guys know next week what he says.
He'll probably be asleep. So
I was going to say he interviewed Richard Hart yesterday. Shout out to Crypto Face.
Stay in May.
Stay in May. All right, so check out his interview. It's a really good interview. All right, well, let's talk a little ECASH Act. We have, this is Representative Lynch. It's a Democrat from Massachusetts. It's the chair of the House Financial Committee, the FinTech Task Force. And they're trying to start the ECASH Act, and it's essentially going to have a Treasury-led pilot program for a digital dollar. They want to test the safety, functionality, and interoperability of it with other payment systems. But there is some good news. I know we always talk about, they're trying to reach in, they're trying to stick their finger in the candy bowl here, but they want to have physical currency aspects, including anonymity, privacy, and minimum intrusive data collecting from transactions here, as well as being able to work as a peer-to-peer payment system. So there is a little bit of a silver lining. Now, Ben, do you think that this is part of Gary Gensler's playbook? Is this kind of like the smoking industry? They say, look, we don't want no smoking. We're going to fight tooth and nail. We want to be in the airports. We want to be on the airplane. We want to be in the elementary school. They fight tooth and nail. Next thing you know, they're kicked out on the sidewalk. But is this kind of the same strategy? We're fighting tooth and nail for, hey, get in a digital dollar any way we can, whether it's Treasury, whether it's SEC backed, whether we're, trying to over-regulate people here. What is the game plan here? Do you think this representative is going off script from the U.S. Treasury playbook here?
Well, she is a Democrat from Massachusetts, so she has to be better than the other Democrat from Massachusetts.
Yeah. No comment.
Right? The banking broad, right?
Yeah.
Look, here's the thing. This is what we are seeing right now, and you see this in every level of our government. On the federal level, you're seeing it from Senate to Congress. You're seeing it in the SEC. You're seeing the CFTC. Look, we are in the midst of a gigantic power play over crypto politically. That is what we are seeing. That's what the entire executive order was about, was basically who's going to be controlling what. That is what they're investigating. And I think probably in 6 months or so, 6 to 9 months, we're going to get that news. And if we were to see Bitcoin heading back to all-time highs, this could potentially lead to what could eventually be a traditional bear market that we've seen maybe into next year. be much shorter than the ones previous because of the Bitcoin halving that would be in 2024. But that's what we're seeing. We're seeing positioning. You're seeing Congress wants to regulate crypto. The Senate wants to regulate crypto. We are seeing the SEC wants to regulate crypto, who are doing the poorest job and will be stripped of most of their powers in crypto, I believe, here pretty soon. The CFTC, they want their positioning. Tons of other, the OCC, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, they're wanting their say. Treasury is wanting their say. The Fed itself is wanting its say. Jerome Powell is wanting to regulate crypto more. You're basically just seeing a power play between high-ranking individuals, elected or otherwise, who are wanting to put their foot down so they can have a stake into crypto. And the question is why? Why do these people want to be able to put their stake into crypto regulation? Here's why. If you look up the guy who created the BIT license, right? The much maligned BIT license in New York that made it really difficult for crypto companies to operate there. You know what he immediately did? He immediately, after he left his position with the Southern District of New York, and went on the board of a crypto company to help them get a BIT license. These politicians understand the money on the back end for being associated with crypto and someone that people will look at as, oh, now look, I don't know Representative Lynch from anybody. She may be a great person. I don't know. She's the one that's in the crosshairs right now. You know, an example would be, oh, don't you remember Representative Lynch? Like, she led a lot of the crypto regulation. We should bring her into our company at a 7-figure salary, put her on our board after she's done with politics. That way she can help us navigate how to, get around this act. So that is what the power play it's about. It's not about, oh, like, I was the first one to regulate crypto. I want to have a plaque behind me that says that. That's what it's about. It's about the money on the back end for these politicians.
All right. Now, Gareth, let's go back down memory lane here, and we kind of, I don't know what's going on. We have, there we go. But, we've seen a similar situation, whether you've seen the movie Big Short or you were around during a financial crisis. There's a lot of noise, a lot of people demanding action. I think we end up with Frank Dodd Act was probably the more serious legislation. But I think we even saw new agencies created, new departments created. Are we seeing a similar situation here where the left hand's not talking to the right hand? And, next thing you know, we got 10 agencies kind of fighting over the same bite here. Is this going to be, bullish or bearish for crypto legislation as far as when it comes to price action?
Yeah, I mean, I was around in the Great Recession period, and even before that with the dot-com bust. So yeah, I kind of been around for a long time. In regards to the regulation that's coming out, I mean, you got to believe that there's enough foothold in the U.S. with jobs associated with crypto. And when you see Microsoft buying out a gaming company to get into to that side and all these other things, I truly believe that what will come out of it will be a positive. All right. They're not going to want to destroy jobs, especially not in a midterm election year. So I do think it's going to be positive. Whether or not who's trying to be the biggest, what in the room to try to get their foot in the door and say, hey, I was the one that did it. I'm sure that's part of it too. And they're all trying to get ahead of each other. But in general, yeah, I think you have positives here. I mean, this is where it has to go. And I've said this for a long time, that if Bitcoin is ever going to be worth $1 million, you have to have positive regulation, because the pension funds out there that have trillions of dollars, the hedge funds out there that have trillions of dollars, there's no way they are going to step into this until they have some framework where they can talk to their investors and say, hey, we know what we're doing, we know what our limits are, and we're actually going to invest a portion of our assets in cryptocurrency. So you got to get that regulation in there. That's probably the most, I mean, it's counterintuitive, but it's probably the most bullish thing for crypto, assuming it's the right regulation.
Okay. Now, Tom, from Crypto Busy, if this passes, we have a treasury-led pilot program for a digital dollar. This is a pretty big deal. If this does happen and say it's successful, do you see less of a demand for these other stable coins, whether it's UST, USDT, USDC? Do you see people, maybe jumping ship and saying, I just got to go what's backed by Uncle Sam. I don't want to ruffle any feathers in these, meetings that I may be in later in the future. Will we see, a reduction in demand, or will the crypto community as a whole just reject this outright, you think?
I think that whether you're asking the crypto community to reject a government-backed stablecoin, I don't think that's going to be the case. So I think that there's always going to be a place for USDT, USDC, UST. because people within the crypto community, even outside of that as well, have seen what the governments have done over the past 2 years. Now, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing, people are a lot more aware and awake to what governments are trying to do, what they're trying to implement. And I think that is a big hurdle, essentially, for CBDCs to be implemented. If the trust in the government is probably at lower levels, or the lowest levels it's ever been, because of what's happened over the past 2 years, and because of you seeing the hypocrisy that's come out from the governments, regardless of whether they've done a good job or a bad job, again, things are very out there on social media. You can the veil between politicians and the public is thinner than it's ever been. So the trust to go from USDC to a central bank digital currency probably won't be there. But they will try. The government will try everything they can do to implement it in every way possible. So they will make sure that your paycheck is in the central bank digital dollar, and find ways to implement it in Walmart or wherever you may go and spend your digital dollars. So in terms of adoption, that will be a hurdle for USDC and USDT. But I think always there's going to be a place for crypto stablecoins within the crypto community itself. You can't ban Bitcoin. Bitcoin has been banned ever since it's began. You can't ban a technology that was a line of code 13 years ago that is now being legal tender in El Salvador, is looking for other places across the world that are looking into what Bitcoin can do for them. So, and even also recently with what has happened with I believe a report or something within the Senate, where they're looking into what El Salvador's done with crypto. So they clearly see that Bitcoin is a threat to the US dollar, and especially what's happening right now on a macro scale, where the sands are shifting from a world reserve currency. You also have the petrodollar as well. There's so many things at play of what the United States and the US dollar is trying to preserve, and then also at the same time what crypto is trying to bring. So there's a lot of ego at play here. But I think going forward, there's going to be, I think, a huge battle for how crypto is going to be put in.
And I think you brought it up in the beginning. It'll be a battle for trust as well. I know probably most people in the chat, probably don't trust their government. I know I don't trust my government, but it's because they won't fix that pothole. And you know what? I blame Obama. I think it's his fault. But speaking of trust, Crypto Keeper, they say they want to keep it anonymous. They say they want to keep it private. They say they don't want to collect data from this thing. Do you trust the government to stick to their word with that, or do you think that can they, go back on that word if they kind of market it as such? What can they do? Can they just, do an about face, try to sneak in some code? Would you trust them if they said, look, here's the code. Heck, it's on GitHub if you want, can we trust them to actually keep it anonymous, keep it private, keep, data collection at a minimum here?
Oh boy, you asked a loaded question here to me, DZ. You know what? I think this whole thing stinks of some sort of little play that the government's making. Let me explain why. Okay, so first of all, let's start off with the idea that it's going to be private. Okay, as I read the article about it, it talks about, it can be peer-to-peer, and basically it will be on your phone. You'll touch your phone to another person's phone, and boom, you can make the transaction. I will say that if anyone's talked, I did a video on this earlier, but if anyone's talked on their phone or in front of their phone, not even being on their phone, and then all of a sudden we're getting, ads for that exact thing, we already don't have privacy. So now we're talking about putting a digital cash of sorts in that same arena. Okay. So do I believe that they're not going to be monitoring it? Absolutely not. But here's what I do believe. I believe that this might be their trial run in a way that they are able to be anonymous with what they are doing. So the government is going to say, okay, now the reason that they don't want to use a public blockchain is because the transactions can be tracked, and there is a lot of people that don't trust our government that are going to watch these wallets, that are going to be watching these transactions happen. Now, I think it's interesting. They're introducing something that is digital in format, but supposedly no one can track. So no one can say what the government did or didn't do when, things hit the fan, if you will. And so as we set up it, you hear Klaus Schwab and some of the World Economic Forum talk about this great reset. I think it's scary. We're talking about not introducing a digital option and it's public. We're talking about a digital option and it's private. And I know hearing that from somebody in crypto, you're like, well, no, this is great. Well, yeah, it's great. if it wasn't our government that was serving it up on the plate to you and saying, hey, this is the new thing. I think that it is maneuvering to set us up. And when they set us up, it is for the purpose of, or the privacy side of it is to make everybody feel good, rub everybody's back, say, you can trust us. We're the government. We're here to help. But that's the exact problem. We're the government and we're here to, quote, help. And that's definitely not
okay. I kind of like
on.
that take. We can trust the government to want to hide how much money they print. Because, you know,
Yes.
if everything is private, we can't see them just, you know, basically turning it into a poop coin. Some would say it's already there. All right, well, let's move on to Goldman and XRP. XRP Army, let us know if you're in the chat. I want to see some XRP Army in the chat. Hit that like button. Let's get these subscribes up too. And make sure you check out all the guests that we have. Their information is going to be in the description. Really, really good stuff. We love all these channels that we have on here. So always recommend checking it out. But Goldman Sachs, they released a report on electronic money overview of digital assets and blockchain. And in it, they identified Ripple as opportunity in payments alongside Circle and Coinbase. So putting it up with these vetted companies, publicly traded companies, you know, companies that, you know, people believe in, you know, on a sure level. So they're saying, you know, kind of give a breakdown, then they give a description of it. But I mean, we've seen some really good action. I kind of want to look at the XRP price real quick. Right now, number 6 in market cap, 89 cents, up 6%, kind of flat on the week. Started today, but up 6% on the day right now. Now, Ben, let's assume, you know, XRP wins this case. You know, a lot of people are saying, all right, there's going to then be a banking takeover. What would that look like? Are they going to, you know, is it going to topple one institution? Is it going to be existing institutions adopt it? Are they going to open their own, you know, kind of like, are we going to see similar to Western Unions inside Walmarts? Are we going to see a Ripple Lab Center inside Walmarts? How will this look like for the end user?
Yeah, no, it's not going to look like that at all. And the reason is because, you know, this is bank to bank. Like, this is not like I'm not sending you Ripple on RippleNet, like on the, or using ODL, like to send you crypto. Like, this is for banks to, you know, process these cross-border transactions. And when you really open up the idea of a network of value, which XRP is or Ripple is, compared to a network of information that Swift is, there are a lot of possibilities that open up, you know, on an institutional level when they're used to doing things the same old way. It's very expensive. It's very archaic. It's very old. I think there's a lot of really cool use cases that we don't know yet. I think that actually can, you know, this can bring about. I mean, if you were to have said, if you were to have told me when Ethereum was created that, you know, we would be trading pictures of monkeys and this would be the biggest thing out there, you would have told me I was crazy. And I think that's why we really got to let Ripple develop to see, once the banks do all start using it, or the majority of the banks do start using it, what are the use cases that come out of this? I think something really interesting to look at here also hidden within this news is Coinbase is on there too. You know, it's not just Ripple. It's not just Circle. Coinbase for payments is a whole other animal that we haven't really broken down from this story. When we look at all the FANG stocks, how did they make all their money? Well, Amazon is not a retailer, or it is a retailer, but this is not how they make their money. They make their money with their Amazon Web Services and their cloud. All of the FANG stocks, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Netflix, Google, Alphabet, right? They've all created alternative ways of making money outside of what their front-facing services are. So I think Coinbase also doing this is very interesting, but I don't think we're going to be seeing, you know, Ripple compete with, look, when you look at the money in cross-border transactions, and not only that, it's not the money in the transactions, it's the money in getting the banks to use the software that will make all this easier. Because when banks have to, it's basically like if you had a company that totally changed their CRM or totally changed their POS system, like think of the reverberating effects of that. There's got to be training, there's got to be relationships, there's got to be monthly support. Like there's a lot of other ways that Ripple will be making money outside of just the cross-border transactions. So I think when you take all that into consideration, it's just too much of an incentive for Ripple Labs itself to really focus on the B2B. You're going to look, there's going to be kind of, you know, not just retail CBDCs, there's going to be wholesale CBDCs in a sense. And that's really what we're looking at Ripple. It's on the wholesale side. It's not the front-facing retail side. However, through XRPL, there are some front-facing things that are being created with NFTs and platforms and DeFi. There are some customer front-facing, some retail front-facing things coming out of that, but that's not really Ripple Labs pushing that stuff. So Ripple Labs is for the suits. You know, we are going to make money because we're swimming with the whales.
All right. Now, Crypto Keeper, who would you consider, you know, some of the main competitors, or what are the main obstacles for XRP? You know, is it Coinbase? You know, is it the banks that they are trying to work with? Is it Bitcoin? Is it Ethereum? I mean, what would you consider some of the major obstacles for XRP, you know, being used this way?
Man, major obstacles in the way. You know what? And I don't say this just because I hold quite a bit of XRP and believe that it's going to be successful. I think the only real obstacles are, you know, I can't see this happening, but this SEC case going the wrong direction. Other than that, I think we're headed in a direction of, listen, there's like 55 institutions across the world that are currently in partnership with Ripple Labs. They're not doing that because it doesn't work. They're doing it because it does work. And so the facts are these banks are not going away. And somebody in Ripple Labs said a long time ago, you know what? Banks are not going away. They are a reality of the future. You can like it. You can not like it. You can be happy about it. You can be sad about it. They're not going anywhere. So the system that they have right now is archaic. It is slow. It is expensive. And we have a simple solution. And that solution is XRP. I do not see a case where it doesn't work other than our greedy government wanting to get their little hands into, the pie and basically shutting it down and creating their own solution where, you know, it's more centralized for them. But the facts are it is being used. It is going to continue to work. And yeah, I think we're all going to make a bunch of money. So let's get it.
All right. Now, Tom, I see you nodding your head. I mean, I assume, you know, maybe you have a little XRP in the bag. I mean, what is your take on XRP? You know, we've kind of had a tumultuous year with the price action, you know, kind of spent a lot of time bouncing around, I say 120 to 70 cents. Right now, you know, with Bitcoin up, XRP is up, you know, like a lot of altcoins, maybe even pumping a little bit harder than Bitcoin. Are you bullish, you know, long-term XRP? What's the busy take on Ripple Labs?
We are bullish long-term on XRP. There's going to be dips and corrections, of course, but you know, there's a lot of good things happening for XRP itself. And even if in the unlikely event, in the unlikely scenario that the Ripple SEC case was lost and Ripple lost that, 90% of Ripple's business is outside of the United States. In the G20, 19 out of the G20 see XRP as not a security. It is only the United States that see XRP as a security. So it is, or the SEC themselves specifically. Here at CryptoBusy, we're big fans of XRP. We've talked about it since day dot, since the beginning. And we will continue to do so because we see what XRP is trying to do. We see what Ripple Labs are trying to solve. And it's a massive issue, especially right now with international payments. I urge everybody right now to, after the show, of course, to look up and search FedNow. FedNow. That is the Federal Reserve instrument that they're trying to look into, that the Federal Reserve is looking into to create instant payment settlements. It sounds very familiar because Ripple Labs is trying to solve that as well. There's a lot of things here at play. They're also standardized as well. So there's the ISO 20022 or 20, something like that. It's like a large one. Look up the ISO that XRP is adhered to as well. So there's a lot of good things that's happening for this. We can see also out of the past year, out of this whole bull cycle that we've been in so far, Bitcoin has hit a new all-time high. Ethereum has hit a new all-time high. Cardano, Polkadot, Terra Luna, you can name anything that has hit a new all-time high. Pretty much all of them have hit a new all-time high. XRP is the only one out of a very few that have not hit a new all-time high in this bull cycle. Once this case is settled and solved, you're going to be seeing new all-time highs for XRP, in my opinion, going past the $3.80, the $3.50, wherever it is, and going into the $5 to $10 territory. I'm not saying this year, I'm not even saying next year, but I think over the longer period of time, we've got to have a long-term perspective for XRP here. There is a lot of good stuff happening for XRP in the long term. So that's where we are. That's what we think.
All right. All right. You got me bullish. All those little factoids real quick. All of a sudden, I wanted to market buy XRP on KuCoin there. All right. Well, I want to show this chart. This is the 1 year chart on XRP. And look what happened a year ago. Look at this. This was about 51 weeks ago. And then we just saw a huge blast off. Now, Gareth, I don't know if, you have an XRP chart, but we've seen, in Crypto Busy, he did bring up the all-time high. You can see that parabolic spike in, was it early 2018, correct? Yeah, or like very, very early 2018, late 2017. What is going on with this chart? I mean, a lot of people, of course, the XRP army, they're saying it's imminent. A new all-time high is imminent. But what's that Soloway technical analysis telling us?
Yeah. So, I mean, as a technician, you have to keep an open mind. Like anything could happen. Any level could break at any point, and then you have to adjust. But the one thing that you can see here is you had this wedge pattern, which starts with that massive move up here, at least in early 2021. And right now you broke below it. You retraced to that same line, fell back, and look at where you're coming up to again, right back to that same area. So if by chance XRP gets above that area, this 96 cent level, give or take, then I think if it holds there and you haven't got a decision, that's where you start getting bullish. And the idea of technicals isn't that, basically it's tracking human emotion, but I'm a big believer that smarter money than me or smart money that has more information will know ahead of all of us, right? So if by chance it gets above that level and kind of holds there and you don't have a decision, I think that's your signal. As long as we remain below it, that would be my concern, is like, hey, listen, this is still resistance here. You got to respect resistance in the TA world until it's broken. So just be a little careful. Never put anything beyond, judges and the SEC. If there's one thing I know in the business of stocks, you just never know when they're coming for you. You can never bank on a decision until it's in.
Okay, well, I'm liking what I'm seeing, though, on that chart. It is looking good, and Bitcoin's in the green, so that's a good day for me. Now, Ben, I believe you won on Thursday, so it looks like you got maybe a little 2-day streak going on here. Feel free, leave us with some parting thoughts.
Yeah, well, when you're the best, you tend to win. And today, no offense to these other guys on the panel, and the greatest panel we ever had, by the way, obviously, took the win. Look, guys, I just want to reiterate what I said earlier, which is be careful. We don't know for sure which way this is going. Gareth is giving you some possible bearish scenarios, some resistance points. You should listen to him. Ultimately, I hope the price of Bitcoin goes up. I think it's getting a better and better shot to hit all-time highs with each passing week and resistance level we go by. But always make sure to diversify your investments. Not financial advice, though. I can't do that.
Yeah, NFA. And until next time, BitSquad, DZ out. Make sure you check out Frankie Candles and Meta Money, and of course, NFT Alpha Show.
And go follow everybody on the show. Make sure you guys hit up all the channels on the show.
Boom.